Kvaratskhelia steadying himself! A star in the making. And there's the only goal! Savini with it! After 11 years, once again, Milan are the champions of Italy.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sit Down, the penultimate edition of Serie A Sit Down for the 22-23 season. World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Ravello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. Ciao, chat. How everyone doing? How are you doing, Frank?
I'm good, man. You going back to the man bun? What is this?
Yeah, hair's getting long, so it's gotta. I realized I was thinking about this the other day. Like, when's the last time I cut my hair? And it's like it was a week before my son was born, and so it's been 8 months now. So
okay, back to the Kevin Karanye vibe, I guess, huh?
There you go. There you go.
So,
or Zlatan.
No, Kevin Karanye.
There you go. I like that better.
Don't insult Zlatan like
That's
that.
true. That is true. That is true.
So, no, we're doing good, man. It was a good, Memorial Day weekend. Did a lot of family stuff with friends. By the time we were all done with it, it was just nice to go back to work. Yeah. Kind of getting to that age. It was one of those things. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, I actually had to work on Saturday, and then so I had a 2-day weekend, Sunday and Monday. But I can't complain. I have a 3-day weekend coming up, so no complaints from me.
Good for you. And the throat is back to normal. Everything's back to normal. Feeling better.
I got my voice again. So thank you. Yep. Thank you, Matt Santangelo, for filling in. He was awesome.
Yes, Matt was excellent. We had a very good conversation about all of the topics that we covered last week, in Serie A Sit Down. So we got a good, we're kind of getting away from recapping the games here. We typically do when we get down the stretch at the end of the season. I think we start looking ahead to the next, to the future a little bit. We start
so many talking points pop up, at the end of the season.
There's so many talking points as the season ends, and it's probably our focus shifts to that, especially when when everything has been pretty much decided. So we will take a look at the relegation scrum here down the stretch. Lecce, congratulations to them. They'll be back next season. So
Bravo.
Final day comes down to Spezia or Verona. They both are on the road. Spezia on the road? Yes. Spezia travel to Roma. Verona travel to Milan. So everything to play for. There's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching between those teams. I believe, is everything kicking off Saturday at 9 a.m. East?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I believe
so. All 10 games are going to be at the same time Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. So we will know pretty early in the day on Saturday.
One game does not start on time. So Napoli, Sampdoria start early. Everybody else starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, and is that for for more of a champion's coronation or?
It's a champion's coronation and Sampdoria send off.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. It's a good way to put it,
Yeah.
So anyway, let Sampdoria get done with the season a little bit sooner than everybody else, and just let them get on with figuring out Serie B about a couple hours ahead of everybody else. Why not? Right. We will preview the first of 3 Serie A teams in a European final as Roma tomorrow. They take on Sevilla. Huge match there. We'll break down the team, what we think the teams will look like, and get our predictions in for that. We will take a look at the Azzurri call-ups for the Nations League semifinals. Some very interesting decisions made. Sandro Tonali going to go with the Italy under-21s and not with the national team on this time around. That's interesting. Wow. A couple of other head-scratching decisions by Roberto Mancini as he prepares to try to get his hands on another trophy as Italy manager. So we will break down that team. Juventus, it's pretty much done now, except for what UEFA may have to say about it. We'll have our take on how that went. We'll answer some questions And Luciano Spalletti, leaving after after leading Napoli to his first and only Scudetto, has decided he's going to go back to Tuscany and make more wine. So, he says a 1 year sabbatical. My guess is it's going to be longer than that. We'll just have to see what happens. But and then we'll finish with the world's most popular hashtag game. Who won Calcio Twitter? We promised that last week. Just trying to be sensitive to match time last week. We didn't. We decided all of the entries last week are going to move into this week for a big Who Won Calcio Twitter contest. Nobody's going to win anything like as a prize, except you beat out more people this time around. So it's extra special. So where do we begin, Richard?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think we should start with the relegation battle because, as you mentioned, Lecce punched their ticket to remain in Serie A for next season.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves two teams really to talk about, right? And it's going to be Verona and Spezia. Both teams not getting the job done last weekend. One more or less convincing the other. And now they have all to play for this last game here. While Milan already clinched Champions League, it's not an easy game for Verona to go there and try to beat them. And on the flip side, Spezia has to go and get a result against Roma. You would think Roma has nothing to play for with the whole Juventus troubles that they're going with, but we'll get to this a little bit later. But Juventus are trying to get back into Europe, and so Roma technically do need to win this game just in case to cover their backside, just in case that goes through. So Roma have a stake in this, so this is going to be a difficult game for Spezia as well. I don't know who to call. This is going to be two tough games there. But congrats to Lecce. Congrats to Lecce fan club in UK. Those guys are awesome. Happy for those guys. But
yes.
Down to 2.
So I don't. So here's the thing. I'm going to predict Roma to win. We'll talk about but spoiler alert, I'm going to predict Roma to win tomorrow against Sevilla, which the game for them on Saturday is going to be absolutely meaningless. Milan, the game is absolutely meaningless. They've got 4th. They're going back to the Champions League. So it's a matter of which of these teams take advantage, Spezia or Verona. If Spezia have Mbala and Zola fit, you can argue that they're going to have a chance. But you're going to probably see Roma play some guys like they might play a guy like Kumbula, okay, in the back, and they might mix it up a little bit. They might have some different guys in there who have not, been mainstays for Jose Mourinho over the course of the season, and where Milan will probably also shuffle the deck a little bit here. Kjaer may play.
Adli?
What's that?
Adli?
Is it fine? If it's not here, it's never going to happen. I expect Ibrahimovic to play.
Yeah, swan song, maybe.
We'll see if he plays from the start, or if it's one of those deals where he comes on as a substitute and gets a swan song that way. I think he'd start.
Yeah. If he's healthy
I've seen it done where you start the game and at 30 minutes they sub you off.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Chelsea did that with Didier Drogba several years ago.
Yeah,
where he started the match and then in 30 minutes they subbed him off to give him a proper send off while people were still at the game.
Yeah.
So instead of doing something like at 60 minutes or 70 minutes and people are already slowly starting to leave because the game means nothing, and at least it means nothing to Milan and all that other stuff. So, we'll see what happens. Roma could be playing. Is Belotti fit? I don't even know. Guys like that. So
Belotti's fit.
Kyle is saying if they're level on points, they have to play a playoff, and if the playoff is level after 90 minutes, it goes straight to penalties. I didn't think so. I thought Spezia beat Verona. I thought Spezia has head-to-head over Verona. And I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to give you give me your take on how you see things looking right now.
Well, I think the Verona has certainly a difficult task ahead of them with Milan. It depends how many people we see from Milan get turned around. I can see easily a score draw in this one with Milan and Hellas Verona. They're gonna have to put all the eggs in the basket to try to get a result in this one. I'm gonna disagree with you on the Roma not having a meaningless game for them, because with Serie A, Lega Serie A, FIGC, granted this is UEFA this time we're dealing with, but it's so much uncertainty with UEFA, with Juventus, and they've proposed to not take a fine and not get any more points taken away from them, and so they can achieve European success. Their argument is that if they qualify for European spot, they should be able to play in it. And we'll see if UEFA says yes or not. Cheffrin's probably not going to say it, but there's a chance he could say yes. And if he does say yes, UEFA says yes, and Juventus somehow get a win on Saturday, on the weekend, and Roma lose, and Juventus leapfrog them, Juventus then would be in the European spot. So I think Roma have to at least, match what Juventus do this weekend. And so it's meaningless in a way, but they have to scoreboard watch and do at least match what Juventus do. But just in case, the off chance the UEFA says, you know what, hey, we'll take that money on the side table, and we'll go ahead and grant you this one deal here. But not that I believe it'll happen, but anything could happen when you deal with Italian clubs. Things happen sometimes that you don't expect, right? So that's why I think Roma will have a little bit more to play with, just because they don't want to be in that situation where they lose, Juve win, Juve leapfrogs, and all of a sudden they're in European, Conference League or whatever, and they're out.
Kyle is right. I just quick looked at an article. They apparently, for relegation, if they're tied for 17th and 18th, they do play off.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So
Bundesliga-esque in a way.
Yeah, they do play off, where I think all of the other places are decided by, the European places and so forth are decided by head to head. So, I think it's the whole point of Juventus kind of being the wild card here as far as Roma is concerned, Richard. Yeah. I think Juventus are going to be completely out of Europe. I think UEFA is going to rule that way. I think they're going to ban them from Europe for a year.
And it could all matter for naught if Roma do their job tomorrow. If they do, this you're right. It's meaningless, 100% meaningless, because they're in the Champions League and nothing else matters. So let's hope. I also think
Udinese are going to beat Juventus on Saturday. I think this Juventus team looks totally uninspired right now by everything that has happened, and I think they just want to get the season over with and be done with it, and and all this other stuff. I think that they're bracing themselves for not having any European football next year. Some of those guys are going to be leaving. It's just it's just kind of a dumpster fire situation. So. And Juve may even be, and the one end I think they would want the European football, and we're getting off track here a little bit, but on the other end, they, look what not being in Europe has done for other teams, to be able to work. I mean, Atalanta wasn't as successful, as they would have liked this year, but they're going to be back in European football next season. They're going to play in the Europa League, but I think we remember the year that Chelsea missed Europe altogether. Antonio Conte took over and they went straight to the top and won the title. So, taking away some of those distractions and regrouping and refocusing, there is some merit to that. So, what I'll say is this, let me come back to Verona and Spezia. I picked Verona to survive over Spezia. I think that they, Matt made some very interesting points last week, saying Verona got rid of a lot of good players and didn't adequately replace them. Spezia, they've got a couple of players that you look at and, they say, okay, it's all right, but there's a lot of missing pieces with them too, and it's not an entirely finished product. So, I'm pulling for Verona to do it because I've been saying all along that they're going to get out of this and they're going to survive. But if you want to look at it from merit, Richard, if there's a team out of the two that deserves to stay up, it's Spezia. And I've got two main reasons. Okay. Milan and Inter. They beat them both at home.
Fair enough.
I don't know. You got to look and see. We're going to have to do some digging to see, if we're just looking at it based on resumes, what does Verona have to boast about? But just looking at it here, Spezia getting those wins, 2-1 against Inter, 2-0 against Milan. I think if you want to look at it from that perspective, they've probably pulled the results that would suggest that they perhaps deserve, if you want to pick one out of the two.
That's fair.
But I think as far as a team that I think could regroup, get some players and be a decent fixture for next season and may not have this problem next season, I think Hellas Verona have the better chance at that.
So how about this question that Dominic asked? He says, which team would you rather get relegated so you can pick up from their sale, pick up their bodies? So meaning, which team do you think has the most talent that you would want to pickpocket from if they were to get relegated? Spezia if they go down with the guys like Nzola, or Verona go down with, some of the guys that they have?
Spezia. I think that Spezia might have the, I want to say 2 or 3 most talented players between the two teams. Esposito, Nzola.
Yeah.
Giassi hasn't been very good this season, though.
Okay, yeah.
And then you got to have Simone Verdi in that conversation on the Verona side.
Yeah.
Lazovic, when you're looking at him. So,
Montipo, quality backup
as a goalkeeper, exactly. So, I wouldn't be interested in trying to bring on Miguel Veloso, so old. Pavel Davidovich just doesn't do it for me as a defender. He's for every good moment that he has 3 reckless ones. So, so I prefer Spezia to go down because, to get access to the players if they were to move on. I think Spezia deserve. If you look at results this season, I think Spezia deserve to be up based on the merit of their results versus Verona's results. But I picked Verona because I think they're just a little bit, as a collective, a little bit more talented. Even though Spezia might probably, if you pull those two teams together, Spezia might have the 2 best players.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I agree with that. And I would love to have the 2 players you mentioned in particular. But looking at Verona's squad, they got some players that you wouldn't mind getting, like Gaich. He has some potential down the road, right? And Ngonge just showed some.
I like Ngonge.
Juricic, obviously, the Tomo Henry. Tomo Henry's popped up, the last couple of seasons for Venezia, now Verona, and she's shown some flair. Obviously, Simone Verde is a guy you want to talk about, but Tameze is a guy. Maybe he has a little bit of juice still left in the tank. Rustic, I like Rustic a lot. Lazovic is a guy you mentioned as well. And then probably De Pauli maybe has a little bit of legs in him, and Faraoni. And obviously Montipo is the main one that you want to talk about on this team. But I think either way, there's some good players available. And it's all a matter of who picks them up and do they go to the right spot. I think at least talking goalkeepers, Montipo has advantage, and any of the top teams has is quality backup right here. He could, granted, start from probably a lot of the teams, but good backup. A lot of top teams are looking for a good backup, right? You never know when an injury will happen, right? Look at Milan, right? So you got that going. But yeah, Nzola, I think we both agree he needs to go to a top team, right?
Yep.
Boulaye Dia, same thing with Salernitana, even though he just re-upped with them. So yeah, I think either way you're good. It just depends on who has the money, and I think either way, if you're a top 7 team, you're probably in a good position versus if a mid-table team, So
yeah, Isaac Keane, I wouldn't go so far to call him a good defender. I think he's decent.
Yeah.
Some of that might just be victimized by the players that surround him. I liked what Josh Doig was doing for them for a little while. Talking about Hellas Verona. Now, is Jaden Braff there on loan from Dortmund B, or did he move there?
I thought he was, but I could be very wrong on that.
Okay, I would think you would know that as a Bundesliga.
I usually turn away the yellow stuff away from me. I just don't.
Yeah, no, I understand. You got Simone Bastoni too in that mix there for Spezia as well. So, so just as we've talked it out, Verona pretty much just because I picked them, and I think that they have a little bit more staying power than Spezia. Spezia on their merit, deserve to stay up. And then Spezia is the team I would prefer to get relegated if you wanted to get access to players for decent fees. So
yeah,
I think they have more attractive players that you would want to buy from than Verona do. So, so that's in the bag. Let's jump to Juventus because we did talk about them a little bit here earlier. And so they today reached I guess we could call it a plea bargain with the courts, with the FIGC, with whoever they bargained with. And they basically said, all right, we're working on this. We're cleaning house, blah, blah, blah. All right, we're taking the 10-point deduction. Fine. We don't want any more points deductions. We want to keep our place. And then they agreed on a fine that was pretty much a mere pittance for Juventus. So this is the way I understand it. It's part of the, that they reached an agreement, that they understand their guilt. They don't want any more points docked. And that now it's, because, and I think some of this has to do with the fact that UEFA is going to get involved and make a decision at some level. What was your reaction to some of this news that went on today?
The balls to make that kind of offer and say, after all the shit that went down, say, you know what, we deserve to be in Europe. We'll take a fine instead of a point deduction, and let us play in Europe next season. Like, the balls. I mean, you gotta give them credit in a way, right? To say you're gonna go off the rails and say something crazy like that, and the hopes that you're gonna get it. Maybe your old guy Chefrin will say yes, right? I don't know. I like I said, I've been hearing for months that UEFA is not interested in having Juventus in Europe next season. I don't remember where I heard this from. I heard it from many different places. Reach out to some of our friends who are in the know a little bit of this kind of stuff, right? And none of them have said that they've heard anything verifiable from UEFA saying those comments. So I would think UEFA, especially with Juventus being one of the three main teams involved in the Super League fiasco, that they would want to teach them a lesson. And granted, if it was Manchester City or whatever, they seem to turn a blind eye with the FFP, right? But I feel like they would make a statement in this one by not allowing Juventus to play in Europe for one or 2 years. And to take a deal like this would, whatever small reputation that they have left would be gone, because the whole Super League stuff and everything else that UEFA has done over the years, not only them, but all the other top leagues around Europe and the world, it would just be a black eye for UEFA, and I think they almost have to say no to Juventus. Granted, kudos to Juventus for making that offer, but the ball's on them to say that after all the shit that they did, that they have proven, and they basically said, yes, we did it. Just don't give us the worst penalty possible. We'll take a fine, and what we still deserve to play in Europe. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, I think based on basically accepting or concurring that they did something wrong, they should be out. Yep. And we have a lot of Juventini friends that they're very good people. They're awesome. They're great. But I think this situation, Juventus basically admitted what they've done to an extent. What exactly was, I don't know, but they accepted, they admitted it, and so they should be out. At least, and I'm not saying 2 years, but at least 1 year, if nothing else, to teach them a lesson. And UEFA needs to show us that they're serious by allowing Juventus to go in. It also puts the credibility out the window and maybe brings another light for the Super League to come back in, because people are gonna be like, really, UEFA? You're gonna allow this? Really? What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is Juventus have really good lawyers, and their lawyers are better than all whoever the prosecutors are. So we talked, Matt and I talked last week, that I think we're at a point with the state of Serie A and the state of Italian football that you don't need the Juventus brand to be strong for the Serie A brand to be strong. 7 years ago, I would have said, yeah, you're going to need the Juventus brand to be strong in order for Serie A to be strong. That's the only chance right now, because everybody else is scrambling trying to figure out their shit. So Juve got Johnny Cochran. George, nicely done. By the way, George, congrats. Playoff win for Cagliari over Parma today, 3-2. Yeah, I believe is it and George, I always forget this every year with the play. The semifinals, I think, is just a one-off, right? It's not. Is it a two-leg?
Okay. I believe it's 2 legs.
So they do go back to Parma for leg 2.
I believe so. George and anybody else in chat can correct us, but I believe that's what it is.
Yes. So, but they take an advantage to Parma for the second leg. So that's good. The punished on the small charges, got away with the bigger crime. Yeah, okay. Juve have really good lawyers, which helped them pull this off and get away with it. So, I would. There's a lot of teams that would have done this and would have gotten sent down to Serie C, and I think that's the problem that I have with it. Right. I think that it's special favors being curried to the power teams, to one of the seven sisters, who there are still certain people in FIGC and in Serie A that if you remove one of these big brands, it hurts the brand of the rest of the league more than it does to keep them around and let FIGC be the bad cop here, and let Serie A be the bad, whoever the prosecuting side is. Let them be the ones. Let's look bad to make sure that our the quality of our league stays strong. That's the message that I think the prosecuting side and the FIGC have sent here. So, so that's what I would say to all of this. We've seen it in the past, though. Milan self-bowed out of Europe a couple seasons ago. When they did their irregularities, they pled guilty. They owned up to it and said, "Hey, we'll self-impose a year out of Europe. Okay, someone can come in and take our place." So we've seen that. We've seen it done before. In this case, I just can't. It's done. Are we all really? Are we all really going to? Is the world going to really be that different for us if this is what happens to Juve in the end? No. So let's all move on. Is my take. So
yeah.
I'm not defending anything that Juventus did, and I'm not defending their strategy. Although they have a right to the strategy that they took. In your words, they had balls. So and their lawyers were very, very effective at convincing the appropriate people to say, all right, 10 points, but to 10 points, we're not going to seek any more points penalties, but you do have to pay a fine. So it's what it is. It's the maybe the psychology of paying the fine, and we'll see what Juve do going forward in terms of cleaning house. Now, let me ask you to the sporting side of things. I think Jose Mourinho has argued in the past that, or he argued recently. He said, what Juve did on the pitch shouldn't be punished. What do you say to that? I mean, somebody coming from another team that's making a comment like that.
Yeah, I mean, earlier in the season, Alessandro Del Piero said it on CBS Sports Golazo, the same thing, where it's unfair to deduct a point from a team and then give it back to them and go up and down. And then Mourinho echoed those sentiments recently. And while I believe Juve should be docked points, I agree with both of those gentlemen in that not only does it impact Juventus when you dock them and give them points and take it back and forth, it affects every other team around them in the league. Because you have 5, 6, 7 teams trying to get up to possibly Champions League, and 1 minute they think they're there, next minute they're not, and then it goes up and down. It messes with the psychology of the whole league, makes the whole league look like a clown show because people up top can't get their shit together. And so it's ridiculous. I think what they should do is just wait till the end of the season, then dock them points, like it happened in the past. And maybe, and Kyle can confirm this or not, but maybe that's what's going to happen with Napoli. Who knows? I mean, there's rumors that they're in this a little bit with the whole Osimhen purchase and the 80 million and and the shaving of the prices and transfer market stuff. That's just the rumors I'm hearing, but you should be doing these point deductions at the end of the season, not during the season, because it messes with too many teams, too many people who are paying money for tickets, that don't know if their team's in the Champions League or not. It's very confusing, and it looks like a shit show.
Yep. So now it's
Apex
a transfer ban would have been a better punishment instead of a point deduction. That's fair.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think the transfer ban probably correlates with the actual activity. So
fair enough. Yeah. Barcelona, right? A few years ago.
Right. So it's a, and maybe that's what this was all about, that was possibly on the table, and to take that off the table, they said, all right, we're going to own up to all this. We're going to own this. We're going to own the 10-point deduction and that sort of thing. And that's where they got in those conversations. So who knows what happened behind closed doors with all of them.
I don't.
But I mean, if Udinese beat Juventus on Saturday and Milan beat Verona, well, Milan have beaten by, grabbed fourth by ahead of Juventus by more than the 10 points they got docked.
Yep.
We can all talk about the psychology of Juventus after that punishment, but this was a team that was also sputtering to the finishes in the first place. No. So we'll see. But it's now your move, UEFA, is basically what it is as it pertains to Juventus, and we'll see what they do. I mean, it's pretty similar to when college athletics before NIL, where the NCAA got involved, improper payments to players, and then the program was put on probation, or it was banned from postseason player. It was docked a handful of scholarships and things like that. It's kind of some, similar punishments, basically. So
another equally evil empire over there.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, is there even a reason to have the NCAA anymore now that NIL exists? It's just it's just crazy.
The conferences don't matter.
Yeah, it's exactly. So anyway, so that's the take on Juventus. Let's go back to the top of the table in Napoli, where Spalletti's taking his Scudetto and he's going home.
Yeah, how about that? Right? It's shocking. What for one, you take it for face value that hey, he's had a hard career. He just pulled off his greatest season ever with a team that's maybe a once in a lifetime team for him. Maybe he doesn't think he can duplicate it again, but it just wore him so out that he needs a time away. Maybe that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, like I said, part of that rumor that I talked about, that maybe something's coming from Napoli on the off season that he doesn't want to be part of in terms of like losing players or whatever, and he's like, I'm just gonna get out before shitstorm happens, so I don't tarnish my legacy here. Or it's just like part of me thinks it's. I mean, I don't know what it is, what's going on, but I think he doesn't feel quite as confident to repeat. Thus, he's stepping back. If he had the fullest confidence of like a Mourinho type, right, where he's like, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna win it again, he'd stick around. But like, it's bizarre to me to see any kind of manager, and it's not unprecedented. We've seen it time and time again in different sports, even Calcio, that a manager just steps away and says, I'm gonna take a little bit of time off. But it's so bizarre to me because I don't think like that at all. I would say if I won the title, I'm coming back to win the league and the Champions League and whatever else I can get, right? And so if he's legit and he just is overworked, overdone, and he needs a little break, kudos to him. But I don't necessarily believe it right now. And could be wrong, but
I love a good conspiracy, so I'll stir the pot a little bit. I think there's some players that are going to get sold here that Spalletti doesn't want to see sold, so he's walking away.
If he, especially now that he walks away, you can almost guarantee 2, if not 3 superstars are going to go, maybe, if the right money comes.
Osimhen, is he gone?
If the money comes, I think ADL says, yeah, why not? If how about Ashiele gets $150 million offer? Why not? If Kim Min-jae gets $100 million offer, why not?
Sure.
ADL, we'll see. This is gonna be the ball is in ADL's court, as Dominic says. Will he blow up the team? I don't know. But a lot on ADL's legacy rides here, right? Granted, you're good for another 33 years with the fans, but I mean, you could build something special. This is a special team right now. And if you throw it to shit, it's gonna be one of the biggest like travesties, in modern era for football. So,
Kim to Manchester United is almost done. Who are you hearing that through? I know that there was conversations. I didn't know it was that advanced.
I don't know.
If it's something like the Daily Mail Apex, we got to look for a different source. Or the Sun.
And I've also heard the same thing with Osimhen to Manchester United too. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. I mean, they got more money than they do in Serie A. So
the release clause is peanuts to Premier League teams. Okay, so that makes some sense. I thought, but Kvaratskhelia re-upped, didn't he, during the season?
Yes.
So that clause has to be a lot higher than it was.
You'd hope.
So
not as high as Rafa Leao, but
yeah, there might have been some conversations between De Laurentiis and Spalletti's like, well, I'm leaving then. So
yeah,
it could be that. So, but yeah, I mean, to Dominic's point, nobody looks as tired about winning as Spalletti. So
yeah. Maybe Conte.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Conte. Conte, I've heard Luis Enrique. It sounds like, De Laurentiis has dismissed the Luis Enrique talk. Says it's going to be he's going to the Premier League.
I heard there's an Argentine manager, and his name escapes me, who's doing really well right now. I think with River, but I don't remember who. But they're saying that he may be the guy that comes in. With I forgot his name. I apologize. I'll look it up later. But yeah, that's what I heard. There's some other names coming up. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. It's a big off season for Napoli. You hope they don't mess this up too much. And you hope that Spalletti is leaving because he needs a sabbatical and not versus he knows something is coming and he just wants to get out of the way.
Italiano going to Napoli.
That'd be interesting.
That would be very interesting. The Porto manager, yeah, I saw that. Conceição.
Yeah.
I think he would make Napoli a little more rigid than they were this year. Yeah. But Napoli still had a very impressive defensive record this season. So, yeah. So that'll be interesting. It's how in the European landscape, the Napoli seat. Where is it? Where is it on that map? I mean,
if you told me there was guarantees that you would keep Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, and Kim,
well, of course,
the nucleus, I would say it is a top 3 job in Europe.
I'm brushing up my resume if I'm guaranteed that Kim and Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen, because I would just play. Go ahead, get out there.
If you're missing 2 of those stars of the 3. Mm-hmm. At least, and maybe a good chunk of maybe like 1 or 2 of the core, like midfielders, whatever, then it's I would say it's no bigger than a Milan, Inter, or Juventus job in terms of Italy. And then on the European front, it's probably second tier. If you with no guarantees, it's a top 3 job easily because you have fantastic team that can dominate Europe, and not only the league but also Europe. But no guarantees, right? It's I don't think it's as juicy of a job in my opinion. Not that I wouldn't think. I'm just thinking how everyone on the outside would look at it. They're like, they're gonna miss this. No, they're missing Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen or whatever, 2 guys. You're probably like, and if ADL is not willing to spend as the new manager will want, I don't know.
I would put it behind in Italy. I would put it behind Juve, in the Milan clubs, but I would put it just ahead of the Roma clubs. I think that the Roman clubs. I think that's where Napoli have asserted themselves, and I think that's a huge credit to De Laurentiis' leadership. Over the past 2+ decades. So based on that, on the European landscape. A certain coach that might want to get his career back on track, it might attract him.
If you want to go down in folklore, you go to Napoli and win again.
Exactly.
And you will be a historic for them.
To be a cult hero. They'll never forget you, and they might even build a statue for you. So, so based on my theory of, hey, a guy that might need to regroup and resurrect his career a little bit, you're the Bundesliga guy, so let me throw this name at you.
Okay.
Julian Nagelsmann.
Oh.
You think he'd want to come to Italy, and do you think that would be a fit?
That is interesting fit. He is. It could work. It could work. He doesn't have the pressure like he did at Bayern. It'd be more relaxed like it would be at RB Leipzig. Yeah, that's an interesting take. He obviously has to learn the language, but I think tactic-wise, he's good. He has always had offensive type teams that he's preached. Defensively, they've been decent. He's done wonders with the resources that he has, whether it's a lot or little. He's found ways. He's scouted well. I'm sure he would try to bring some scouts along too. Not that Napoli don't have good scouts. Obviously, with Kvaratskhelia, must have a fantastic scout, right? But and Kim Min-jae. But I think Nagelsmann would be an interesting take. Obviously, there's a language barrier, but football is a universal language, and I like that shot. It's an interesting one for sure.
I like to try to reach a little deeper for the ones that I still think might fit. I'm
a Bielsa. Kidding.
No, it's Bielsa's. I think Bielsa's just might be a little too extreme for Napoli. I think the ego might be too big for Napoli.
Yeah. If Sony moves on from Lazio, he can go there.
True. Bielsa might actually. I think that'd be a great destination. That'd be a great spot for Bielsa to land at Lazio. But Roger Schmidt from Benfica that's intriguing, but I don't think it happens. I think he stays at Benfica. Benfica seem to be backing him. I mean, they bring players in that. I mean, did you think that? I didn't think David Neres was going to go from Ajax to Benfica.
No.
As an example. So it looks like, and they always they always got young players.
Well, how about this? We're throwing these managers from different leagues. How about Van Bommel? He's done some really great things with PSV and the Eredivisie on two different fronts, 2 different years, 2 different eras, I should say.
Yeah.
You think he would fit with Napoli?
No. Again, I don't see the fit.
Yeah.
I know that Van Bommel's got a little bit of Serie A experience. He played with Milan.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I necessarily see the fit there. I thought you were going to say Van Nistelrooy. He's at PSV now.
Yeah.
Slot is going to Tottenham. I think that's a done deal by now. But Bielsa just got hired by Uruguay National. I think that's an excellent fit, by the way.
Yeah.
I think Bielsa that's an excellent fit for Uruguay. De Laurentiis has thought outside the box in the past.
Yes.
With this position. Van Nistelrooy is unemployed now. Okay. So I know that he was at PSV. I didn't know it. Was it Slot backed out of Spurs? Slot's going to stay at Feyenoord. As far as Serie A, Italiano's the ideal fit if he wanted to leave the Fiorentina post and take the Napoli job. Out of the managers that are in Serie A, it would just be the progression 4-3-3, 4-3-3.
How about Dionisi? You couldn't get Italiano, of course. I think Italiano would be one of the top names you want from Serie A.
I got to see one more year out of Dionisi, personally. It's the same thing that we said about Palladino at Monza. Is like I hope Palladino stays at Monza at least for another year to continue to prove himself.
Yeah.
Because right now the tenure is still enough to be considered just a flash in the pan.
And Gilardino, I like to see what he does with Genoa in Serie A versus Serie B. So yeah, interesting.
Sure. So in Serie A, the natural progression, it would be a natural progression for Vincenzo Italiano. But who knows if he's even interested. The outside the box, not really that crazy when you really break it down and think about it for me. And I'll that's why I asked it, is Julian Nagelsmann.
Yeah.
So it would be, he'd have to learn Italian, but Tuchel will be interesting. You would think, is Tuchel going to stay at Bayern now, or what?
We'll see.
What's going on with that?
We'll see what's going to happen with them. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense for him to stay there, but there's so much chaos going now with Khan and Salihamidzic, getting fired and all this. Who knows what's going on with there?
And I leave De Zerbi out of these conversations because I think he's staying at Brighton.
If you're in the Premier League and you got a team doing really well, being top 10, you keep going. You keep going to the well runs dry, right? So.
Yep, I agree. All right, so let's move on to let's do ask and answered. Let's do asked and answered.
Asked and answered.
I just made up a new segment here on City.
Apparently,
you texted me a bunch of questions.
Yes. All right. So where was I? All right. So let's start with. Well, we already talked about, Agnelli and Elkan for with the Juventus nonsense that's going on there. Another question we got related to Milan, and this comes from Forza Domi. It says, question for tonight's pod, is 15 million euros for Ruben Loftus-Cheek a good choice given that the other center midfielder options available in the market, like SMS, Tielemans, etc. 15 millions for Ruben Loftus-Cheeks. What do you say?
I think it's fair. I don't think Milan would be getting ripped off, but I don't think that they'd be smoking a cigarette over the deal either.
Apparently, Chelsea wanted at least 20 million euros for him. Milan apparently today offered 10 million. Yeah, this is a dance that Maldini does with everybody. It'll likely be 15 million if they want to pursue him.
I wouldn't go higher than 15.
I agree.
And I think that Loftus-Cheek, it's a chance for him to rehabilitate his career, and he gets to come into an environment where Milan desperately needs some depth in the midfield. You've got Krunic Bennacer, Tonali, they can't play every game. You add Loftus-Cheek to the mix, who can play a multitude of positions, and I think that gives Milan a little bit of depth. He can also play kind of in some physical. He can also play in some wide areas. I've seen him do that for Chelsea.
Yes, against Milan, he did it.
Yep, I'm not going higher than 15 here. No way.
I agree. And I agree 100% with that. If you can get him 10, get him 10. But 15, I wouldn't go higher than 15. Do I think he's better than like a Tulemans or SMS? No, but those guys are going to go upwards of 30 million euros at minimum. And if you believe the rumors that Milan will get from Redbird, and I don't know how much I believe any of this, but between anywhere 50 million euros to 75 million euros, why would you waste a good chunk of your money on a midfielder when that's not one of your main needs? One of your main needs is the right wing. Some of these other positions, backup goalkeeper, right? But center midfield, I think your midfield is good, and going for a Loftus-Cheek who could play the wing, he's got to be an upgrade from Messias and Salamakers, certainly from a physicality standpoint. And then you keep that midfield intact. Yeah, why not? It makes sense. It's depth move if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can find a midfielder that can play multiple positions. Tielemans is a free agent. Man, I am not as high on Tielemans as everybody else is.
How much is he going to want per year? That's going to be the question. I don't think he's going to
be the wages. The wages are out of whack.
Yeah.
The wages are out of whack. Two, he's coming from a team that's been relegated and plays in a role where to me he's a turnstile defensively. I think he's really easy to go through. I mean, he's good on set pieces and good on a dead ball. He's a good passer from the midfield, but man, defensively such a liability. And when you saw how Milan got roasted in games when they didn't have Maignan in goal, and they continued to go with 4 in the back and the double pivot, and Tielemans, you can't really play him as a 10. So he's going to be part of that double pivot. And I'm not paying Tielemans the kind of money to try to force him into the role that Milan need at that position. We've got a guy like that already. His name's Tonali, and Tonali's actually a good defender when it's convenient for him. He does lose runners in counterattacking situations. See the first leg against Inter. But we got a guy like that already. I don't think that Milan need to add Tielemans to that situation.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll see. I mean, I think midfield Milan is okay. They could use better depth, but in terms of starters, they're good. And we don't know yet what's going to happen with Adli and CDK next year. Do they blossom? Do they disappear? Do they get sold? We don't know. If they stay and they blossom like a Tonali or Bennacer did, that's even better for Milan, and they don't even need any more help there. But it's a long way away. It's hard to see. But I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek for 15 million euros is a deal, and it's apparently not the only player Milan are looking to get. And this one will be a free, right? Daichi Kamada from Frankfurt.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on him before I get into him?
I'm looking forward to Daichi Kamada coming to Milan. I think it's a great low risk move. You don't have to pay a transfer fee for him. His salary isn't going to be terribly expensive where it's going to keep you from going out and getting more players. So the risk is low on a guy that when he and Kostic were on the team together, Kamada was trusted with a share of set pieces. So he's good on the dead ball. He's good at driving from the midfield. He's good at picking out the pass, and he can score goals from the midfield position. I think there's some versatility to Daichi Kamada, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Milan can do with him. He can probably play him in the 10, and if they redeem Brahim Diaz, they can put him over to the right, which worked out pretty well when they started using him there. Is he the dynamic right-sided winger midfielder that Milan fans want? No, but Brahim can be serviceable in that role. And now you got Brahim playing middle, playing to the right. But come back to Kamada. I like this. I think that there's his low risk for a guy that I think can come in and contribute to this Milan team.
Yeah, and obviously the first comparisons will be to Keisuke Honda, right? Similar, free Japanese player with a lot of offensive upside. And Honda didn't work out well.
That's where, and we talked about this last week with Matt, this is where the Milan fans might get a little gun shy about Kamada.
Sure.
But I think Kamada is a far more dynamic player than Honda.
And that was the banter era for Milan versus now Milan's a much more stable team.
Exactly.
I don't think those comparisons are fair. Just because they're both Japanese internationals, I was like, that's not enough for me to compare the two. Now, I will give you a comparison for Daichi Kamada, which may or probably not be, nice to hear from Milan fans. But I would say he is most similar to me. This is just to me, my opinion, to Rade Krunic, but an improved version of Rade Krunic. Rade Krunic, say what you will, he's a utility man. He does many things well. He's physical defensively. He has decent vision, but I think Daichi Kamada is all that but better. Has much better vision. He can actually score goals. He needs to be more consistent for sure. There's some areas where he needs to improve upon, but from a raw perspective, from price perspective, if Milan plays their cards well, he could be a 10. He could be a filler for a Bennacer or Tonali when they're not starting. He could play a plethora of roles in that midfield there, not too dissimilar from Rade Krunic. Yeah. And so I think that's more a fair assessment to say versus a Keisuke Honda. And I mean, Kamada's got 9 goals, 6 assists, I think, this year in the Bundesliga. So he has great vision. He absolutely has great vision. And so we should be looking forward to this, next season when they play him. But they gotta put him in the right position. Just because you got a player that does great things, if you put him in the wrong position, they're not going to succeed, right? So hopefully we learn from our mistakes from last year and do a better job. And I mean, hey, like I said, if Adley somehow stays next year and he improves and he gets pitch time, having those two guys as a backup to let the other guys rest, that's going to be a fortune for Milan in the long run. But I love the signing. Obviously, it's free, so I'm going to love that. But I'm a big fan of Daichi Kamada. I think he does a lot of things well. He's still very raw, very young, in terms of experience and different facets of the game. Needs to be more consistent for sure. But when he's on, he's on, and he can dance around guys like no other. He's got really excellent footwork.
I like everything you said. My only thing that add to this is I think that Kamada has more technical quality than Krunic does.
100%.
So,
and Krunic is not bad. Krunic is not bad, but Kamada is superior to him.
No. The Japanese Fabio Brino, absolutely not. Far from it. Far from it. So, Pulisic to Juventus, if it goes through, what are your thoughts? My thoughts is that's one of the worst places Pulisic can possibly go to. I mean, attacking players to Juventus, the way this, unless you get a new manager in there that's going to play more attacking football, this stinks for any attacking player to go to. Even Di Maria was pedestrian by his standards this season. I mean, he had the hat trick against Nantes in the Europa League. He had some other moments where he stepped up and he's shown. But I mean, they're going to cash in on Dusan Vlahovic, which when Juve bought Vlahovic, I said this isn't going to be as good as Juve fans think it was. I didn't say it was going to be a failure, but this definitely isn't going to be as good as everybody believes it's going to be, and it hasn't been. If you look at the entire body of work for what was spent to get Dusan Vlahovic to Juventus, you should have been. You have a right to expect more.
Yep.
But no, I hope that's just a rumor that goes away really quick. I think that Pulisic gets wasted at Juventus, especially with the way they're currently set up.
100%. I mean, anybody who goes to an Allegri team has to know they're not going to have the chances that they had before. Maybe a couple players will flourish in that system, but I like Pulisic obviously as an American, but I don't think he would do well at all under Allegri's system. It's not set up that way. Like, it's not conducive. Like you said, it's a defensive style that hits on the counterattack, and yeah, maybe he could flourish in that aspect of it, but there's no way. I just think that's a failure from the beginning, even more so than Vlahovic was when he got signed there, as we talked about. I think he's better off if he were to go to Serie A, right? I mean, Napoli, right? Obviously Napoli, Lazio, maybe. A few other teams, but I don't think Juventus would be a good fit at all. Would it be a big name for them to have in a way? Sure, but again, we had this with Di Maria, and he struggled. He wasn't his normal self. It was below his par, right? and several other players. So, yeah, I don't know. A new manager would do wonders, and I would say, depending on who that manager was. If Vincenzo Italiano, we just talked about him earlier, yeah, I would say Pulisic should be great for him. But with Allegri, I don't think so. I don't.
Yep. Davide Fratesi is going to be a very interesting name. Why don't we keep this conversation going about transfer rumors? There's no way he stays at Sassuolo.
No.
Juventus is in the mix for him. Inter, I've heard Milan. Brighton is a name to watch out for in all of this.
The Zerbi.
With the Zerbi, exactly. So, that's another thing that we have to probably keep an eye on. So thoughts on Fratesi. Where's the next best destination for him if he's to leave Sassuolo?
Hopefully he paid attention to Manuel Locatelli and doesn't go to Juve. Fratesi he's a fantastic player. He needs to go to a midfield where he can kind of operate and fit into a system. And Juventus is not that at present. Fratesi, man, I think he would do well. I think he could do well under Lazio and Sarri. I do. I really like the midfield setup that they have, and I think, who knows what happens with the rest of their players, but there might be a void there. If SMS were to leave, or who knows who else might go. So there could be a fit. Maybe Roma, but they're a little heavy in the midfield at the moment. Fiorentina would be a nice progression, slow progression. It's not a big progression for him, but Fiorentina would be a nice fit there, I think. Dare I say Inter? Inter's got a lot of that talent there, but Brozovic, how many more years does he have left, right? Barella is fantastic in his prime, but, Calhanoglu, is he going to continue to be successful? Aslani, are they going to keep with him, or are they going to move him on? He didn't have that great of a season, so maybe there he flourishes. I don't think he fits at a team like Milan. Napoli could work, but it depends on so many things with what's going on in Napoli right now. So, yeah, I mean, I'd probably say half the Seven Sisters he could probably fit in well, but certainly not Juventus.
Roma to me is a nice place for Fratesi if they ever work, but it sounds like Roma's putting their attention. I thought they were putting their attention on Aouar from Lyon.
That's good. That's good. Yeah,
it was pretty similar. So this was a few weeks ago. And I think that Roma's in the conversation for Tielemans too. So we'll.
I hate that.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Another name that I think we have to watch out for that I think is in play for Serie A teams is Marcus Thuram.
Interisti want him.
Inter want him. There was talk to Milan, Juventus. His dad played there.
Every top team should want him.
Yep. So Dino's saying Milan should do everything in their power to get Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Now is the time. Best attacking midfielder in Serie A. Just what Milan need. Will Milan pay for him? Is the big question.
With the funds that they have, it would be like half their budget.
Right.
If they have is what if you listen to what people are saying out there. So, do you want to do that with all the other needs that they have? I think, like I said before, Milan have bigger needs than the midfield at the moment. The right wing position is just atrocious, and it has been, and the depth is bad. So, I mean, I think you can do more with less. Even though SMS is fantastic player, is one of the best in the league, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive.
Yep. So we'll see. Lazio replacing Sergei Milinkovic-Savic and I think he's asking that about for Phil is asking that about Fratesi. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I like Fratesi with Lazio. I do.
You kind of get, if Luis Alberto's still there and then Cataldi's kind of sitting in that, I mean, Sarri had Jorginho, Allen, and Hamsik in the midfield. Okay, so Luis Alberto's Hamsik. Cataldi isn't necessarily Jorginho. I mean, his characteristics are a little bit different. And then, Milinkovic-Savic is definitely an Allen. So that kind of flip-flops. And Fratesi's not, Fratesi might be a little more technical than Allen. Allen was a ball winner. So we'll have to see. Dino's saying that it's worth 30 to 35. That's what's speculated. If they get 30 to 35 million, I would write that check right now. It'll bounce if I wrote it, but
yeah, me too. But again, I think SMS for 30 to 35 million is a fantastic deal. You go for it. But if your budget is only 50 million euros and you have so many needs, that's what I'm saying. Is like, do you want to spend half your budget on this player? I'm not saying he's terrible. He's a great player. When you have other needs, and when Milan go the cheap route, or any team goes the cheap route, you get a Messias and Salamakers, and people complain about them. So like, you can't have SMS and then expect to get a world class right wing or two or whatever else your needs are.
Yeah.
Berardi to Lazio. Interesting.
I don't think Berardi's leaving Sassuolo.
No, not with their setup. Unless Felipe Anderson and Zaccagni left and you had some room to plug in Berardi. I think what they got in the front three right now is really nice going. Immobile is going to stay there for sure. I'm trying to think where else Berardi would fit.
Milan on the right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's under 30 million, yeah, why not? Give it a whirl. If he's free or 10 million or how you take that even more, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Inter, I don't think would work Inter with their setup currently, assuming we think Inzaghi would stay, but Interisi will tell you he's gone, even if they win the Champions League. Some will, not all of them, but yeah.
I don't hate Napoli for him either. I mean, yeah, you got Lozano and you got Politano there, but
imagine they keep all their pieces and they have Kvaratskhelia on the left, Berardi on the right with Osimhen up front. Oh my gosh, gosh, they would fight for the ball.
Yeah, that job gets even more attractive. But
yeah.
Oh, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the silly season is going to be upon us before you know it. There's already a lot of speculation. It's going to be very interesting to see what these teams do to shore up for next season. And I think that this is part of why FIGC moved on the 10-point penalty sooner, because these teams are going to know where they're going next year as far as Champions League or Europa League or conference. And, they want to be able to be ready to start setting up their squads to deal with the multitude of competitions. So holding out and all of a sudden, making a decision, say on June 15th, 2 weeks prior to when everything has to be submitted to UEFA. Now these teams are suddenly scrambling as far as what's our transfer strategy going to be. We're going to need to have, we're going to get more funds available and build a deeper squad. So
and this will be the first year. That'll be the first year that Inter are not going to be sellers, because due to their qualification to the finals, the Champions League, they have enough money where they don't have to sell players, according to Zhang. So that's good for them, right? Eduardo is on the chat, right? That's got to be good that you don't lose Lukaku or whoever else. They can actually probably buy Lukaku now from Chelsea, which I think they should. I just don't think they work for Chelsea, and Chelsea have no use for him.
Yeah, they'll need to address defender with Skriniar being out of there, and I think that we hit on this last week. Midfield could use some depth. I think as the season wore on, Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, and Barella were running to the ground. So
Esposito, he's the guy you could pick up, right?
I'm trying to see how he fits in that setup. I mean, he'd be a backup to Çalhanoğlu, really.
At least at a start, for sure.
Yeah. So most probably Brozovic, selling one, getting one. Most probably selling. Boy, if you're selling Brozovic, wow. I think he can still give you something.
Yeah, it depends on what his wages are. I mean, I think Aslani probably worth more than Brozovic, not on the pitch, but I'm talking about what you can get for him. So you get rid of Aslani and bring in a center back if that's what your needs are or whatever. But I think Brozovic has some purpose. He is a big game player. He's a Milan killer. You bring him on for end of games just to close it out, because he can do that.
They'll give up on Gagliardini before they give up on Brozovic and Aslani.
They
should at least.
Correa, they need to get rid of that dead weight.
Yep. So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. Forza City in the final. We'll talk about we'll preview the Champions League and the Conference League finals next week. But we have a matter of the Europa League final being played tomorrow in Budapest, with Roma taking on the team who has Europa League in their DNA, Sevilla. I mean, the odds can't be any tighter right now. Sevilla's plus 180, Roma plus 190, and then plus 190 to go to penalties. It's just, That's as tight as it gets.
Yeah.
So over 2.5 at plus 175. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think there's a lot of goals here. As a final, this is a rock fight. I'm going to just give some introductory comments here. There won't be more than one goal in this final.
Okay.
If there is one. I'm going to stick to my guns on that comment. So I will turn you loose and give your take on what you see with this final coming up.
Yeah, this is a fantastic tie in terms of the storyline, right? Mourinho going for back-to-back European titles, taking a team like Roma, to European glory, successive seasons. Sevilla, just I call him the Dark Prince of Europe, with Europa League successions that they've had over the years. It's going to be a rock fight, I think. I agree. I see more than a goal. I think a 2-1 scoreline here, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went into extra time. But it's just an interesting fight because Allegri, Mourinho is not going to want the ball. He wants to play in the counterattack. Roma have stepped their game up when it comes to European play, and it's just typical of what you see with Mourinho. He gets the best out of his team. His team trusts him, it appears, and what you see is an inspired team, and they want to win from Mourinho. They want to win for themselves. Want to win for the city, and they're an inspired team. But you got Sevilla, who has this aura about them, and yeah, granted, Real Madrid had the aura, right, and City dismantled them, but how they set up is going to be a rock fight, like you said. It's going to be tight. Sevilla have played a more direct type of style play. They're going to look for Lucas Ocampos if he starts. I imagine he will, and try to get the balls into the box of the big men. But it's going to be, I think, this plays to Mourinho and Roma's strength, I think. And I have Roma winning. I have Roma winning 2-1. It's not going to be easy, and you got to earn it, obviously, to beat Sevilla. But imagine, Roma do win. They're in the Champions League. That's 5 teams for Italy. Just on that alone, you got to cheer for Roma because, 5 teams in the Champions League this year. Mourinho in a Champions League with a team that won back-to-back titles. They got to be a dark horse, not to win it, but to cause some chaos in Champions League next year. And for that alone, I would pick Roma. But I think Roma, tactic-wise, it's gonna be super tight in this one. Sevilla are gonna be no slouches. They're gonna give them hell. I do think they'll score a goal, and I wouldn't be surprised they scored early. Just I feel like Roma tend to give up these early goals in these kind of situations. But ultimately, I think Roma have shown a true spine, at least in European play, over the last 2 seasons that they have not had in ages. And yeah, they've had some deep runs over the years, right? But Mourinho's brought them something special, brought that winning mentality that they never had. And so, yeah, I think they find a way. They get inspired. I mean, just watch what they did the last 2 rounds. I think Roma, they are victorious tomorrow, and I'll be cheering for them. And Jose is undefeated in the final, so there you go.
Jose has never lost a final. The other Jose Luis Mendilibar.
Yes.
Or is it Mendiabar or something?
Mendilibar.
Okay, so he took over from Sampaoli at the end of March and straightened out the Sevilla team. I mean, the first priority, they were struggling. Like, they were even worried about relegation at one point. But they've turned that around and they produced some results. Beat Villarreal, go on the road and beat Bilbao. If you're not familiar with Spanish football, Bilbao away is a really tough fixture. So,
oh yeah.
So obviously beat Juventus over 2 legs. The derby against Betis was a 0-0 draw. They lose on 10 men at home to Real Madrid 2-1 most recently. So here's a few things that you're going to learn. Here's a few things that I learned about looking at the results and looking at the Sevilla team. They're going to scrap for this guy. Okay. They're not going to be afraid to get into it. They're not going to be afraid to mix it up. They're not going to be afraid to get into the occasional dirty tackle. Okay. They're going to be able to play Roma from a physicality standpoint. They play with En-Nesyri obviously is capable of getting on the end and scoring goals for them. the Moroccan forward, and then they've got playmakers sitting behind them. Depending on where you look, and I was trying to dive through this to see if there was a paper from one of the previews suggesting who might be in the starting lineup, but I can tell you that here, possible starting lineup. So let's go through that. Sevilla, Bono in goal, Jesus Navas on the right, Bade and Gudel in the middle, Alex Tellez on the left, Fernando and Rakitic in a double pivot, and then it is a three-man scheming attacking midfield. Ocampos, who we're familiar with at Milan, Oliver Torres and Brian Hill, and then Enesri up front, and Naziri. Roma, familiar formation. Rui Patricio in goal, Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez across the back, Zeki Chalik on the right, Spinazzola on the left, Cristante and Matic in the middle, Dybala, Pellegrini, and Abraham. So it's believed that Dybala is going to be available for this game. So time will tell if he actually makes the starting 11, but that was on UEFA.com. SofaScore also projects Dybala to start. SofaScore, in fact, has the exact same projected lineups that UEFA.com has. So I think that Dybala will be available. So where's Roma going to get this done? Roma got to win on the flanks. Okay, and I think that that's where they have the advantage. I would take Zeki Chalik and Leonardo Spinazzola over Jesus Navas and Alex Tellez in Jesus Navas and Alex Tellez's stages of their careers right now. If it was these guys from 5 years ago, I would say that is a dead heat between them. But I think there's an edge there for Roma. I think they win 1-0. I think the goal comes in a counterattacking situation where, in particular, Spinazzola finds a way forward and gets a dangerous ball into the defense. And Bade and Gudel, for the split second, lose Abraham. And Abraham scores the goal. They defend for their lives. Sevilla puts a lot of pressure. That three-man attacking midfield with Rakitic behind is going to create a lot of things and cause a lot of problems. But I think that Mourinho puts it together, shuts up shop, and a second European trophy for Roma under Jose Mourinho is what's going to happen tomorrow. Roma win 1-0. You're on mute.
Rookie, right? Rookie. I was gonna say, what I was trying to say is that I think that's a great way on how the game will look. A nice play-by-play. I think that's very likely to happen. I think, yeah, I agree with Apex that Mourinho is probably playing mind games with Dybala to let Sevilla know, is he playing, is he not? I think Gianluca Mancini kind of spoiled everybody there, or at least spoiled Mourinho's surprise, and saying, Dybala and Spinazzola, they're fine. They're walking fine. They're great. So I expect both of them to start. Dybala is going to be huge in this game. I think Pellegrini is going to be huge in this game. He's going to have to be. I got Pellegrini scoring the game winner in this one, but I think you're dead right on how this is going to be played. And the wing play, Tammy Abraham's ability to run off the last defender is going to be huge. And we forget too that how mobile Tammy Abraham is. And yeah, he can get behind the defenders, but look for him to get the ball wide and then try to cut in and try to find a Dybala backdoor or one of these guys backdoor. Abraham is very versatile as an attacker. They're gonna need their stars to play. You're gonna have to win a European championship. You're gonna have to have your best players show up. And it's not always the heroes that come in and score the goal. Sometimes the unsung heroes, right? But I think Dybala will have to be huge. A healthy Dybala is trouble for Sevilla. A 75% Dybala or 50% Dybala is probably trouble for Sevilla. So no, I like Roma in this. I think most of the chat are feeling this way as well. And Mourinho's going to have them set up tactically almost perfect, if not perfect. It always has been. And he has showed nothing but that over the last 2 seasons. When it's counted in Europe, Roma's been ready. Mm-hmm. And they had the spine to fight against adversity. So let's see a fifth Champions League team for next season.
Yep. That's exactly what it's going to be. And that's what I also say the goal is going to come wide, because I think Fernando is going to be tasked with getting himself in positions to cut supply through the midfield into Abraham. So his role there stymies Pellegrini, maybe Dybala to an effect, which means Roma's going to probably have, if they get their goal, they're going to go around Sevilla. They're not going to go through them. And I think that the way this sets up, Roma are in a really good position to go around them. Spinazzola's had some really nice games in the Europa League this season too, which kind of adds to my belief here.
Would you agree that Sevilla's main mode of attack would probably be down the middle, a more direct style than Roma, I guess I would say?
You don't see Navas. Navas could just have, in his prime, he'd have 10 crosses before he even got off the bus.
Yeah.
You don't see a whole lot of that out of him anymore, but you wonder where his legs are, where he's at this stage in the season, as old as he is. And I still think they're going to look to do things like that. I think Ocampos is going to create some problems. He draws a lot of fouls. He goes at people. He's pretty aggressive with the ball. And
look for him against Mancini, maybe. That could be an interesting battle.
Well, he'll be over in Ibanez's area. So I think it'll be Gil that'll be over in Mancini's area, which suits Mancini, in my opinion.
It's better for Mancini.
Yeah. Oliver Torres could get, he's a guy that to me could get frozen out of this game the way the tactics set up. I mean, he's going to just run into spaces that if he's not running where Cristante is, he's going to be running where Matic is. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. So I think that there's a little bit of an edge here for Sevilla with Ocampos. And I think that the edge for Roma is with the play of their wingbacks. I think if they can get at and get behind the fullbacks and get service to Abraham, Roma are in a really good position to win this game. Because I think in both teams' cases, going through the lines is going to be difficult the way these teams are going to set up.
Can I tell you my one gripe about this game?
What is it?
Why the fuck is it before the Conference League final?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
That makes no sense at all. If you look at the hierarchy of the three tournaments, it should be Conference League final, Europa League final, Champions League final. And you got Europa League. Granted, tomorrow is a free day for me. I can watch it. But it should be Conference League first, and then it should be Europa League. And maybe it's a conflict of schedule. It had to be that way, whatever. But it just makes no sense to me, right? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like playing the wild card game before you play the Super Bowl or something. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's usually, I mean, back in the old days, how the bowl schedule in the BCS, the way the bowl schedule.
Oh yeah.
You'd have like the rose and the orange, and so the Fiesta Bowl hosted the national championship, and that was like 6 days later, and you have the orange and rose and Fiesta, orange and rose and sugar.
Yeah, who's gonna watch that now? Yeah.
That's on New Year's, and then in between there, they throw in the whatever the bowl game, what the GoDaddy.com bowl in Mobile, Alabama, between the Little Sisters of the Poor and What's the Matter You, and then the national championship. I'm not trying to disrespect Fiorentina, but
no, not at all.
Like that.
No, yeah, for sure. No, that's
so. Yeah, so
it'll be a great final.
Yeah, so it'll be great. Like I said, I think Roma win it narrowly. I go 1-0 to them, and they will get a second European trophy under Mourinho, and then really just validation of what Mourinho has done in terms of strengthening Roma and having to be somebody you got to take seriously on the continental stage.
Yeah.
So you imagine if Inter win the Champions League, Inter, Roma, and Napoli all seeded for the Champions League draw next year.
Wow.
So
Milan would be in what, pot 3 or something?
Yeah. So they would draw like one of 5 possible champions. So I think it would be England, Spain, Germany, France. So they probably see a pretty difficult draw, and I would imagine Portugal would be the 5th one. So Benfica. So without looking at it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So if Roma wins and if Inter should win, then that sets that possible scenario up where Milan will end up having to play one, was it City, Barcelona, Bayern, PSG, or Benfica in their group. So we'll see. So that's our Europa League final prediction. Let's go to the Italy call-ups for the Nations League semifinals. They play Spain. When do they play Spain?
I don't have the top of my head right.
Yeah, I don't either. I know it's after the season's over with, guys. That's all you need to know. But we'll talk about it. So, goalkeepers: Gigi Donnarumma, Alex Merritt, and then Vicario. No Provedel. Okay.
Italy is lucky to have such fantastic goalkeepers. You got Vicario, Falcone, Montipo. I mean, so many good guys. Provedel. So many guys that could be on the team. You can only pick a 3. It's like, who do you pick? Just rotate them.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see. I mean, you can't complain about the 3 that they picked. Okay.
No.
Defenders, Baschirotto, Bonucci, really? Buongiorno, Di Lorenzo, Florenzi, Gatti, Spinazzola, and Toloi. So Mancini doesn't want to win this thing.
Yeah.
No Casali, no Romagnoli. Is Casali going down to U21s, though?
He might be with Tonali.
Yeah. That's probably the explanation for him. But why isn't Romagnoli in this team? Can anyone in chat help us out with this? This is unbelievable. Now, because this is like where I'm actually really looking at this. Now, the midfielders are fine, with the exception of Tonali not being in there. Cristante, Fratesi, Jorginho, Locatelli, Pellegrini, Pessina, Verratti, Zaniolo. I'd probably have Tonali over Locatelli in there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, but they want Tonali with the under 21, so that's fine. No complaints about this group, is there?
No. I mean, you can always have 1 or 2 players that you can say, hey, why couldn't they get the call up? But I think for the most part, this is a fine lineup. Yeah, let's see what they got, and maybe see some of the younger guys, maybe led by a Pellegrini or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then the attackers: Berardi, Chiesa, Gnonto, Immobile, Raspadori, Retegui, and Zaccagni. No
issues for me. I think that's a pretty solid lineup, honestly.
Yeah, I'm good with it too.
You mentioned Retegui is going to get the start, but maybe it's Immobile's swan song too. They were talking about somebody else's swan song farewell tour from the national team, maybe Immobile's.
How exciting is it, though, for Federico Baschirotto?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I think you're just happy for him.
Yeah.
So
his team says Serie A and he gets a call up. Why not?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, so they play Spain on June 15th with this squad. I haven't seen Spain's squad yet, but I don't know. It's going to take something impressive for them to beat Spain and get to the final.
Yeah.
Just how I'm thinking about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. It always is when you play a Spain team, team that's going to try to boss possession. You're going to need to have quick wing play, be able to play on the counterattack, much better defenders, but it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. No, you're going to have to play your best game, I think. You're going to have to go back to some of that magic that won you Euros, when you did beat a team like Spain or some of these other big teams too. So they're going to have to pull something special. Can this group here do it? Yes, but they're going to have to nail their tactics. Against Spain, you're going to have to nail your tactics because you're not going to see the ball that much. You're not. And how you line up defensively, how you are able to stop their killer move, I would say, with the wing play, trying to get that striker on the back end, whether it's Morata or whomever, it's going to be difficult, and you got to be able to counter them right away because when they come in with numbers, right? They're possessing the ball, so you got to get quick turnover and quickly go down the field on the counterattack. The attackers that they have here can do it, yes, but can the midfielders do it in this group? Can the defenders hold that pressure? That's the question for me. I think more of the defenders are the biggest unknown for me in this group because I think the attackers and the midfielders are certainly capable. The goalkeepers are all fine, but it's that defense. Can they bend but not break?
Exactly.
Can they stay focused? Bonucci's not who he was, 5-10 years ago, or even when they won the Euros. It's Gatti is in a little bit of good form at the moment. Spinazzola needs to get back his old form. Di Lorenzo, I'd rather him start over than Florenzi. But that's going to be the key for me. I think tactically they're going to have to hit it spot on in this game. It has to be a near perfect game for them to have any chance to win.
The only thing the only thing I can see with Bonucci, Spain will possess, and then they'll try to play a high line against Italy. And then if you're playing Bonucci, you're playing him to just be in supporting roles defensively, not necessarily to man mark, but he's got the kind of passing range to beat the high line.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and in the box, he's a threat.
Yep, it's true. There's that element to it. But other than that, and then some leadership. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot of merit to a guy who hasn't played a lot. So, but we'll see. Mancini may know something that we don't. And Acerbi's not in this team, unless he just decided to give Acerbi a break because he's been playing all. Well, he's going to be that Champions League final.
Yeah,
and you notice PEDL not in this team either.
Correct.
So,
correct.
So that's probably another reason for the thinking. It said, okay, let him have a break. Don't have him turn around and have to play a Nations League game. So, so there's some, that makes sense. So, so we'll see. I don't know if they beat Spain. I think this is going to be a pretty quick Nations League semifinal experience. I'll say Spain win. I think this Italy team is still trying to shuffle the deck a little bit and try to figure it out. And an opponent like Spain is probably coming a little too early in that process.
Yeah, I think they would have a better opponent for them probably be Croatia. Netherlands is kind of the rebuild phase is near completion. They're almost there where they need to be like super competitive in like the World Cup and Euros and stuff like that. But
I'd love to play Netherlands with Koeman as manager. Are you kidding me?
Oh, is he? Oh, that's right. He is manager. I forgot about that. But Croatia, I still take Croatia over the Netherlands.
Oh, man, you get
aging team, man.
I get it, but they only need to be good for. They only need to find a way to have the energy for 90 minutes against you. That's the thing that scares me about Croatia.
That's fair. They got some killers on that team. So
exactly. So my order of preference of teams that I wish Italy would have been able to play is Netherlands most desired, then Croatia, then Spain. It just so happens we're going to play Spain first. So anyway.
It's downhill from here then. So
yep, that's for sure. All right. Well, we promised, we put it off for a week, so let's get on with it, Richard. It is time for the world's most popular hashtag game. Who won? Calcio Twitter. Lead us off.
Oh, righty then. Going back to Perisnich leads us off here as Jose Mourinho got the Italian Spurs back-to-back European finals, but we got to hear Guardiola getting called the best manager in the world for reaching one final after assembling the Avengers with a military budget in 8 years. Agreed.
All right. We've got at Chiesa di Totti, past guest, as an entry here. Between now and the final in Budapest, Roma needs to keep Dybala under lock and key, ensconce him in bubble wrap, cook him nothing but organic, anti-inflammatory meals, tell him he's better than Messi, read him whatever bedtime story he wants. Just keep him healthy and happy.
100%.
The truth.
That is the truth. That is the truth. All right, Apex nominated Napolinissimo, and it's predicted Champions League and Europa League.
Juventus lose. Juventus lose. Juventus lose. Juventus lose.
Wow.
Juventus lose.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
He is a master at his craft, isn't he?
He is.
All right, Saturnion on May 20th. Sampdoria players whenever Leao runs past them.
But go ahead and punch him. Oof. Yikes. All right, moving on to Nemaser, former winner. Love-hate relationships with this club. It's the little phase where it's, oh boy, I'm excited to watch my favorite team. Then it's, I'm going to kill myself. And then, hey, nice we won.
Yeah.
That is Milan. Being a Milan
Been
fan.
a lot of Milan games this year. Okay, Saturnion back. Juventus finding out Brahim Diaz got back to form just before facing them.
That's funny. It was Giroud. It was Giroud ended up being a killer, but and Calabria.
Yep.
All right.
Hey.
All right. So this is Dom, and it's Juventus fans celebrating the Cristiano Guntali, but then realizing Max Allegri is staying 12 points and it's going back Monday.
Hey.
Siavush Falahi got nominated here by Apex Crafter. Let's see. So we've got first it was Gencia Ansa, and I'll translate that. Flights at Catania Airport suspended due to the eruption of Etna. Ash in the airport. There are no safety conditions. To which Falahi retweeted Manchester City GOAT manager Pep, incredible team. Abu Dhabi money, Norwegian alien taking ice baths, scoring 400 goals a season. Inter, weird ass egg video. Asado and good vibes. Volcanoes erupting in Europe. Okay.
All right. All right. Moving on. All right. All right. First half thoughts. Who cares? Boring. Union sucks cock. Keep this up in the second half, and it's W in my books.
Tell them how you really feel, Antonio.
Look at Thomas. It says, "Nah, I'm in tears. The Caucus reputation has completely changed." Oh, they're both good.
I gotta look. Is that in the comments?
Yeah, it's in the comments. Oh, yeah. That's great. That's great. That's leader of clubhouse for me.
Yeah. That's good.
Oh, that's good.
Don't hide how you feel. All right. Moving on. At Maximus0113. Let's see here. So this is at FC UK, every name saying fuck law, and then there's a picture of Juventus with a quote bubble.
Yeah, so it's like them saying it, fuck law. All right, creative. All right. Allegri thinks Czech speaks Italian.
Ora alla italiana fluente metto. Fonculo. Huh? Fonculamenta.
Sounds like Chesney.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Serie A doing everything they can to stop Juve.
Where are we at? Where are you at? Where are you looking at?
Okay.
Which one you watching?
I'm watching the one where it's like where Angle suplexes the Rock and then Edge pins him.
I don't see that one. I don't know where you're at.
Where am I at? I'm on.
I don't know.
You were on the How Allegri Thinks Tech Speaks Italian. I'm on.
Yeah.
Okay. This is at King Idris 11111. Serie A doing everything they can to stop Juve.
I don't even see that.
You don't?
No. I don't see that. The next one I got is from Michael Lisi, where he nominated me.
Hang on here. Let me look. Yep. Okay. Yep. Let's. At replying to Lisi, replying to Nima, replying to Sit Down, and this was a let's see. All right, so Juventus given 10-point deduction, Nedved acquitted, so they exchanged the deduction for acquittals. I guess that circle ain't going to jerk itself. So,
thank you, Lisi. I cannot win. So, Napolinismo says Juve losing 3-0 against Empoli because Chesney doesn't speak Italian well.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, moving on. I am on at Napoli Sansoni.
Yes.
ADL and Gasparini working together.
Yeah, Gasparini is another rumor.
Nice.
All right. Secondly, this is Instagram, but Genoa Club New York. They got together in Times Square and celebrated Genoa's Sampdoria. They celebrated Sampdoria's relegation.
Oh, that's harsh.
It is. They got a good group there too. So
at Jesse S718, Liam Henderson Devlovic. Oh, 80 million. Oh.
Gotta love the shit talking. All right, moving on. Napolinismo again. It's Allegri, 0 titles with Vlahovic, Bremer, Kostic, Locatelli, Pogba, and Di Maria. And it's poor and has always expensive gear on. And then Pirlo getting 2 with McKennie as star signing. Rich, stolen jacket, stolen pants, stolen shoes.
Nice. All right. Now moving on. Max Lombardia at Lombardia Max has made a nominee here. It is I guess there's a thread here. Fabrizio Romano talking about the decision on Kamada. And UFC Joe, he's going to the bigger Milan club, right, Fab? And then Alberto chimes in, Milan 7-time champions, Inter 3-time champions, and then NUFC Joe goes AC Milan is Piccolo, and then Daily AC Milan goes your dick is Piccolo. So.
We will not translate that. You should just know what that is. All right, Rajat nominated Out of Context Football. And so the circle goes like this. Milan loses against Inter, but wins against Napoli. Inter wins against Milan, but loses against Napoli. Napoli wins against Inter, but loses against Milan. Juventus gets sanctioned for corruption, and circle continues.
World keeps spinning.
That's right.
Wait, Napoleonismo just... this must be all he does. Bonucci seeing Milan officially qualify for the Champions League. Neymar turned up to his ex-girlfriend's wedding. Because he promised he'd be there on the happiest day of her life.
Oh my gosh. All right. CM_LFC. One mystery shopper from the UAE was left dumbfounded after purchasing a mug mistakenly labeled as 499 million rather than $4.99. However, despite the store's offer to rectify the mistake, the man has generously decided to make the honor and make the purchase. What? No, it's a jersey. It's Man City. Okay.
Let's see. We're moving on here. Okay.
We are.
Emissary. Inter have all the odds in their favorite. Not going to lie. They're winning it, I'm afraid. Manchester City, tactical, pressing, ball possession, counterattacks. Inter. Egg. Lautaro got married. Lukaku bagged. Megan the Stallion. Inzaghi has beaten 3 bald managers. This is good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think that's the winner.
Do you?
Yeah. Either that or our friend down there who didn't like Gagliardini. But I think this one's got it.
The Gagliardini one is pretty good.
Let's go down to that one again. I got to read that one more time.
Who cares? Boring. Gagliardini sucks cock. Keep this up in the second half, and it's a W in my books.
Okay.
And then going back to the first one, or the last one, I should say, and it was Egg. Lautaro got married. Lukaku bagged Megan Thee Stallion. Inzaghi has beaten 3 bald managers. It's close. It's close.
Let's see here. I don't know. I don't think we've had. I don't think Amisel has won. Has he?
I don't think he has.
I think we're going to be nice here and we'll give it to him.
Yeah, we made top 4, so why not? Let's be nice.
Okay.
There it is.
All right, I'll put this in, and you can say some words to the people.
Well, first of all, I'm going to give a shout out to Matt Santangelo for taking my place last week. I was under the weather, and he stepped in last minute, so thank you, Matt, for that. Definitely give Matt a follow. Give Martino Puccio a follow as well. Great podcast that they got on there, talking about Milan, amongst other things. And, it's season's wrapping up here. A lot of things still yet to be decided. Not so much the top 4, but relegation, certainly. That's going to be an interesting fight. Obviously, we have the Europa League final tomorrow. Huge game for Roma. Possibility of having 5 Italian teams in the Champions League next season. The offseason is going to be crazy. You already know it is, with Spalletti leaving Napoli, and then 2 finals remaining to go. Fiorentina trying to get a win against West Ham, and then obviously the big one, Inter against Man City in the Champions League finals. So a lot to play for here still. A lot of players going to need to be bubble wrapped and fed organic meat or whatever it is that they said about Dybala. It's a lot of good games here. Season wrapped up. It's been a long season, but it's been a good season. Very level. The top teams have been all very close outside of Napoli, of course.
Yep, I agree. Oh man, it's again, I want to thank Matt, and I want to thank all the guests that have been on throughout the season. Guys that guys that we've scheduled, guys that have had to step in an emergency. They've all come through. I want to thank the chat. It's been an excellent season. We got one more to go. Review della Madonnina next Tuesday night, June 6th. We put our official bow on the 2022-2023 season. We will have our team of the season. We will have our crap on a cracker 11. I might do a You Better Know 11 just for everybody to be ready for the players that they need to be keeping an eye on. We've got to see if we can do that. Yes, marathon episode indeed. We did run a little long tonight. Thank you for hanging in there with us, gentlemen.
3 hours is our record. So let's see if we can beat that next
Yeah,
week.
3 hours was on our 200th episode exactly. So I don't know if we're ever going to go that far again.
No.
So we'll go through all of that, pick our goalkeeper of the season. pick our goal of the season, and everything in between. So that's what we will do with next week's show to sign off for the 2022-2023 season. So thank you all as we put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down, where you can find us on our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. You find us on Stitch or Spotify, iHeartRadio. You're probably listening to us right now on one of those spaces. Really, wherever there are podcasts, there is Serie A Sit Down. If you are listening to us on the podcast and you do want to catch us live, it's typically Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, unless we say on our Twitter handle, at Serie A Sit Down, if we're going at a different time or a different day. So you are going to want to follow us at Serie A Sit Down on Twitter to kind of stay on top of the latest and greatest. If you are watching us here on the YouTube channel, thank you very much. Please subscribe, helps us out. Drop a like, helps us even more. And then hit that notification bell because it helps you for when we go live. We also have a Instagram page at Serie A Sit Down. Check us out there. Check us out on our website, www.serieasitdown.com. I think I've covered all the social media aspects and accessibility. Good.
You have.
All right. One more to go to wrap up season 7, Richard.
One more. And then number 8.
Yep. And then the wives will be relieved for, 2.5 months?
Yeah, that's it.
So, all right. Well, everybody, thank you all. Everybody in the chat, excellent stuff. We will talk to you all next Tuesday night to wrap this season up. For Richard, I'm Frank. As always, tell your paisans about us. Ciao.